Welcome back to the podcast. My guest this time out is Newcastle indie band Bear Park. We're going to talk about the band's career, forming the band at 15, originally called the Baltics before changing their name to Bear Park. Within the space of 4 years, the band have already got their debut album out. They started off the year so far supporting the Libertines, Andrew Cushion and Liam Fender, before releasing their album in June. So we're going to talk about all this, plus what's coming up for them next. I hope you all enjoy the podcast. Please keep liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing wherever you can. But more importantly, enjoy.
A simple thing, a true word spoke, a laugh untouched, so we both joke, this will come if you stay.
On the podcast today, I have Newcastle band Bear Park. I've got all three of them, Guy Robson, Shay Bagnall and Adam Marshall, and we're going to speak about the band's career. They've just released their debut album, Bear Park, and we're going to talk about that, plus everything else in between. So what I like to do at the start is go back to you as youngsters and how you what your kind of early life was growing up, what your influences and ambitions were. So I just take it away from there.
Yeah, Guy, you could go first.
Well, I always remember growing up around a lot of music. Like my mum and dad are huge music fans, but I never actually played music until just before lockdown. It was just never really something that crossed my mind until I started doing it, and then I just became obsessed with it, and it just spiraled from there. But I've always been surrounded by music. It was just never something I intended to do. So I think that's quite cool how it just kind of came from nothing. Like I'd never done a music lesson, anything like that. I just literally decided to pick up a guitar and try and learn it. So what about you two?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say, like when I was younger, I was quite the same. There was music around us, but I never paid much attention to it. And truth be told, like, and this is obviously no disrespect to my parents, but I never really took any of their music they liked and started listening to it. The only band that's been the case for is the Killers. My mum is a massive Killers fan, and therefore I'm a massive Killers fan. So they're like the one core band I probably get from my parents. But when I was like 9 and 10, I really liked house music for some reason. I was really into like Swedish House Mafia and like all these big American DJs, and I couldn't tell you why, but I liked it. And then one day I heard Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People, and obviously it's got that very recognizable bass line. And I was just like, for Christmas, yeah, can I have a bass guitar? Like not even knowing what it was. And that was when I was like maybe 12 or 13. So I got it, and there was bits where I dip out for a few years, but then, I got back into it and started being more invested in, wanting to do music properly. And that's where I like took it up properly. So yeah, that's the case for me.
I think it's obviously like my family love music and stuff, and I've always kind of had an urge to learn the drums, but I just never did it. But then one day I was like, I kind of want to do it. It turned to like my granddad, and my granddad was like, right, well, I know this guy from Concert who runs this shop called Steel Town Music and that. And I went up there and just said, like, I just want to learn the drums, and I just got some lessons, and that was it, really. And then I started playing music with Guy. It's me and Guy since school.
I feel like a lot of bands always have this like thing that they say that like they've done music since they like came out the womb and that. But for us, it was literally just like we randomly picked it up, randomly found each other, started it, and it's just kind of snowballed.
Yeah.
Like, then what do you think of that journey then? Like, obviously, if you're talking just like COVID time, and you're talking about what 4 years or something, you get your
Yeah.
debut album. That's mental. Some
Yeah.
bands could go 10 years before they get an album.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I mean, I think we were quite lucky in a sense of like, of course, COVID was very, very difficult. Like, we formed the band, we had another name like a while ago. We formed that in 2019, so the end of 2019, and you get like a few gigs, and then lockdown hits like a few months after you've started the band, and it was. Now I think back, I think it's quite interesting how we've gotten to a good level. Like, of course, we're still really small, but we've gotten to a good level despite starting, when everything just went downhill.
But
Um,
then
and
again, I don't actually think we'd be where we are now without the pandemic
yeah,
because
it's a strange one.
like
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had we started the band and then all of a sudden we had 6 months to just perfect our instruments and just like think about what we actually want to do. And then I think if we were at this level we are now and it happened, it would be just detrimental. But I think it happened at the perfect time for us. We were so lucky with when it actually struck.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an interesting one.
that's what I get for a lot of the kind of up and coming bands that I have in the podcast. They all kind of say the same story: how COVID's helped them rather than hindered them because it has
Hmm.
gave you that time to kind of hone your craft and make your mistakes. And yeah, it's definitely I think it's been beneficial in that aspect. Obviously, gigging wise, it'd be a pain in the arse. Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ruined gigs. It's like they're still not back to where they would be, but yeah, it's just I think it was really good for us as well because we were still in school, and then all of a sudden we've got like 6 months to just like do nothing but music. And even though we couldn't play it together, it was just like writing and listening and learning. Just yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
good.
with being in school, that is a big advantage when you start the band when you're in school because, I mean, it was quite similar for Guy and Adam, but in my school there was a few musicians, but in my year group, I was the only person who was in a band or who remotely talked about music and instruments a lot. Like, that was sort of just like, oh, that's Shay, he's in a band. It's that kind of thing. So that's
Mhm.
what you're kind of known for. And obviously the word spreads when you're in school, and when you're young, everyone's like, oh, he's in a band, that's cool. And everyone picks it up there. So that was very, very, that was really advantageous. And then when we released our debut single in lockdown, everyone was just streaming it into oblivion. So it really helped in a way.
So
Yeah.
before we touch on your music as such, I'm going to kind of focus on Newcastle, like the music scene in Newcastle, and what that's like. Obviously, I've had pretty recently. I had Mark Wilson for the PV Wonders. I had him on,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
and we kind of touched on it. But obviously, you get Sam Fender, you get Andrew Cushion, but there's not a lot else that's kind of hitting the heights. So what's kind of like the underbelly of the Newcastle scene like?
I think it's great. Like, there's so many like, I mean, it sounds cliche, but there's obviously just so many talented people that you don't see that much, that you wish could just be out there taking over the world. Like, and I suppose the bands match the sort of thing you hear about Newcastle, where everyone looks after each other, because that does happen a lot, and I know that happens like in music scenes around the country, and like, people like to talk about it being unique, but it will be the same as other places, but it's just something about that spirit, about it being,
Yeah.
Newcastle's a place that was hit hard in the past when stuff had shut down. So, you've got people with parents from them backgrounds and whatnot, and to have, everyone coming together, going to each other's gigs, it's great. And there's genuinely such a great mix of like, I'd say there's a really good like male female balance. Like, there's so many female talented artists who are getting opportunities, which is really, really good to see. Where you'd have like that gender gap, and you've got so many good like rock bands, indie bands. There's really good funk bands and folk. I think we've got really good folk musicians here as well.
Mm.
Um,
We've always
so
had that since like Lindisfarne, though, haven't we?
yeah,
It's
I was going to
like
say
the
Lindisfarne.
Newcastle thing is like, but like yeah, I agree. I think contained within itself, the Newcastle music scene is amazing. But what you were saying, Martin, like we've only got like Sam Fender and Andrew Cushion really broke through. Like I think it's great within itself, but it's so hard to get out of the Northeast. It's like you're just
Mm.
stuck there. It's
Yeah, totally.
like if we've gigged in London and that, and it's been great, but it's so hard to like spread because you're so far away from everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
good and bad.
it costs money to them as well, doesn't it? So for
Hmm.
like a band where you are kind of in the country, you're kind of everything's done south really, so
Hmm.
Yeah,
that's going to cost
exactly.
a fortune
Yeah.
to them.
I was speaking to someone about it the other day actually, and they were saying they reckon the perfect place to be in a band is Birmingham because you're right in the middle, so you can just like zigzag out to anywhere. But yeah,
Mm.
we've always got to go south, no matter where we're gigging.
Do you think as well? Obviously, like a lot of the time with these cities and the scenes that come out of them, kind of go hand in hand with the football team and the success of the football team. So
Hmm.
obviously, like the resurgence in Newcastle as a football team is kind of went hand in hand with
Hmm.
this kind of resurgence in music. Do you kind of see that as a kind of a, is to do you see that to be true?
Hmm. I think it's brought the city together a lot, and it's kind of bringing back the going out thing. Like it's hard to. That's a really good question, actually.
Well,
Newcastle feels a lot busier
It does, yeah.
than it used to.
Mm.
yeah, I
This
think I
the
think
city.
go on, guy.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. Like even on like nights out and that, the city it had kind of a lull, and now it's back to just booming all the time. It's great,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think
I
that's the
was just
same. Go on, go on.
I'll see what I was going to say. I was just going to say that like when Sam Fender did his St James's Park gigs, obviously Newcastle had just qualified for the Champions League, so there was something there about you know, the football does always link into music, and without fail, when we go to other places, I will mention like Newcastle or Newcastle United. Like I just go for it. I always go for it. I always try to make it known for some reason. But with Sam Fender's big gig at St James's Park, there was that whole uplifting feeling of, Newcastle are in the Champions League. He's a local lad who's just sold out a stadium.
Played the Champions League music, didn't he?
Yeah, and he
So it
had
literally
local,
went hand in hand.
and he had like some of his openers on them nights were local artists. So you had people like Ernie, who's really good, who's from North Shields, I think. So there he's getting in like local people who are all like sort of thriving off the back of like this whole huge feeling of, Sam Fender doing well and Newcastle doing well.
Yeah, you can definitely see it's thriving that sort of, and it does. It's been like that throughout the years. With, as I say, with all these different scenes, you look at kind of the Manchester music scene when the teams have always been doing well.
Yeah.
Up here,
Mhm.
I mean, up here, Celtic have been doing well the last 20 years, and
Yeah,
any decent band seems to support Celtic. So, um,
I like Rangers.
oh, do
Oh
you?
wow.
I
Yeah.
like Rangers.
We might need to cut this short.
I know.
So, musically, then, obviously, you initially started as the Baltics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've been through your Instagram on night last night, and I kind of thought there must be like a reason, like somebody's left or whatever, but it doesn't seem to be. It just seems to be a name change. So, what was the reason for the name change?
So there's a lot of bands with the same name, and there's actually a band in the Northeast called Baltic who had their
I did
name.
see that in some of a lot
Yeah,
of your kind of flyers, like festivals and all that. I seen that.
yeah. So we actually got a festival because the booking agent was trying to book Baltic, but he sent it to the wrong email address, and we like sent one back saying, "Oh, but is there any chance of us playing?" And they went, "Go on, man, and just put us on." But that was good. But yeah, there was loads of bands with the same name, and it was just about the time when we were getting like label interest. and they were a bit like it's a bit too much of like a clash. And we had to pick another name, but we just couldn't for the life of us. And we just looked on Google Maps. There's a place near us called Bear Park, but it's like one word. So we just put a space in the middle, made it 2 words, and I think it sounds pretty cool.
Got a ring to
But
it.
yeah, there was also the fact that we were called the Baltics when we were a 5-piece, and we didn't actually choose the name between us three. So when it became just us three, it was like almost like we didn't really have ownership of the name because we hadn't actually named it that ourselves. So it was kind of like claiming the band in a way. I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
so when you were a 5-piece, I wasn't really aware of that, to be honest. So what was the setup with 5 members?
It was sorry, I was yeah. So
Yeah.
we had an old singer, he went, and then we had another guitarist, and he went as well. It was just one of them things.
Different ideas.
Yeah, and it was that happened like we became like 3 in October, or was it November? It was the last few months of 2020. So obviously everything was like, very much at a standstill then with gigs and everything. So it wasn't like a gigantic blow because we had like 1 or 2 singles out, and we're still growing. Like we're still like, getting out to different places, and people had not seen her as like us yet. So it wasn't like it was a huge hit where you go to a gig and it's like, oh, hang on, where's this person went? It's like it's been made blatantly obvious on social media, and then we'll get back to gigging like 9 months later, and it's fine because everyone already knows about it. So it's one of them things.
And then were you all happy taking on kind of more, kind of like, obviously for yourself, Guy, then I take it you were the one that took on the singing?
I think
That
well,
was
no,
me,
it
but
was Shay took the singing on.
Right.
I think it's the best decision we've ever made as a band. The 3-piece thing is just I don't know. It's just got this thing about it. Like you've got all these famous 3-pieces in the past, like Nirvana, The Police, Supergrass. I just think it's the biggest sounding band format because each member has an entire area of their own. So like
yeah,
there's
I think
like I'm the only guitarist. I've got so much room.
yeah, it was like with me singing, it was basically a case. Obviously, I'm the bass player, but I think when it came to singing, I think that it was kind of like because I was like the songwriter, I was kind of like, okay, I'll just kind of take on the singing duty. So it took us a little while to, kind of worm my way into that. But now I do feel quite comfortable with it. And, like yesterday we played a festival in North Shields, and one of our friends, Ben Harwood, he's a really nice lad, he's from Ashington, really good musician. He came up to me and he said, I don't know how you like play them bass lines and sing at the same time, because the thing there is that I do try and play quite complex bass lines because we're a 3-piece, and I'm trying to make a more melodic kind of gap and like join it all together. So that's something I do find really fun, like having that big like I've got quite a big personality as a bass player, I suppose. Like my bass cuts through the mix a lot. Um, and singing all that, it's just really nice to have that sort of 2 thing going on. So
And obviously you touched on kind of like record label interest. So you ended up signing with Gary Powell,
yeah,
25-hour convenience store. I've already had one of his bands, Dead Freights. I had them on the podcast.
Oh right, yeah.
yeah.
So were you fans of the Libertines beforehand?
It was I'd always like I was never like a Libertines fan. It was always like one of those them things that's like, oh, I like a few songs. I listen to them few songs. And it was the one that was my favorite was Can't Stand Me Now. And then obviously I like Don't Look Back into the Sun. And then I did always quite like Up the Bracket. But then when we got to meet them, you explore them a bit more. And I think me and Guy really like Time for Heroes. That's one of our favorite songs. And then they've got a song called Skint and Minted, which I really, really like, which is like a demo version of a song, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
I'd never listened to them other than Don't Look Back into the Sun on the In-Betweeners film. But I remember it was really weird because we were just about to go and record with Gary, and we'd met him at this point, but it was the first time we were going down to their studio in Margate, and me and Shay went to see a band called Wallows in Leeds, and they on stage they had like a drum kit malfunction, and they started playing Time for Heroes on stage, and we were like, this is so weird because we're literally going down with Gary in like couple of days, and this is our favorite band, well, one of our favorite bands, playing a song
Yeah.
of the band that we're going to record. It was just this weird moment, but from then on, I listened loads, and honestly, I think they're one of my favorite bands. It's just that I don't know, they're really good. Really enjoy their music.
So on recording recording at the album rooms, how was it for specifically for you, Adam? Recording drums with Gary Powell kind of kicking a bit. How much pressure did that put on you?
Oh, I it was a bit. I was a bit nervous at first, to be fair. It probably would be if you're like working with someone as big as Gary, but it's like it was helpful. Like just like there's all of his advice and stuff that he gave us and that, and he was just like cool in the studio, and it's like a very relaxed environment,
Right.
and yeah, he's just like just helping us like through like things that Nevy would like when we'd record in Newcastle, like it would wouldn't do that sort of thing, but like Gary comes in and it's like it's all different, it's all changed.
Mhm.
He's saying new things.
He's got so much experience as well out with the Libertines. Obviously, he's done like, a lot of other stuff as well, which maybe people aren't as aware of.
Yeah.
It's quite rare that a producer is actually a drummer. Like a lot of the time, they're like a guitarist or a keyboard player, and sometimes I feel like when they're trying to tell you what to do on the drums, Adam, it's like they can't really get it across to you. But actually having Gary,
No,
he knows exactly what he's saying. He knows how to speak. Yeah, and with drums being like the most important part of a song, in my opinion, that's so helpful.
yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
And how did kind of the contact with Gary come about? Obviously, you had by this point you'd had like 2 or 3 singles out. So was that kind of what had piqued his interest in you? Had he heard your music and wanted to work with you for there?
It wasn't actually Gary that discovered us.
Yeah.
It was so one of Shay's. Wait, Shay, do you want to explain it? Because you know it better than me.
I had a friend at school whose dad used to own a dance label. I'm not too sure what it was called. I'm not sure it was like it was massive. I think it was more like a download thing. And he had a dance label, and he knew a guy called Eric Longley, who used to be the managing director of Factory Records. And basically we'd put a YouTube video in lockdown of us playing in Guy's Garden, just an instrumental version of our single. And he was like, oh, I really like this. So, like I say, the gigging didn't start like a year later. And he came to our first gig back at the O2 Academy in Newcastle. So that was mint. So he really enjoyed it. He really liked it. We had a meeting with Eric and Martin the next day. And he was like, oh, I'd want to get you into record. And I'd look at Gary from the Libertines. So it was, I don't think it was really like a thing Gary necessarily was like, oh, I'm dying to do this. It was kind of just like, Eric was like, I've got this band. I'd like you to produce them. And Gary's like, okay. So he came and met with, we got to know him. And I think it's kind of like Rowan. Like he hasn't had any like sort of like thoughts about her. It's kind of just like from the day he met with, that was it. And we just went on and we've grown with him, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just so happens that Eric and Gary had a label together. So that's the one that we ended up signing to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's honestly just someone who knows someone who knows someone at the right time. That's all it was. All it was.
That's the best way. I'm hoping I've recently started managing a band myself, so I'm hoping that you have some of that same luck.
Yeah, I know. I mean, even getting our manager, that was a stroke of luck as well. It was one of the old lads in the band. He was such a grafter with like messaging people. Apparently, he just like messaged like every single person in all the Facebook groups and that. And eventually, our manager got sick of him messaging and came down to one of the gigs, and he loved it. And then we signed with him, and it's been absolutely spot on. Just like
Yeah.
not having to think about all these other things and being able to focus on the music. It's great.
Yeah, I think it is important to have somebody else kind of doing that, and then it lets you focus on what you are good at.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously it's still a load of hard work, but like with having Lee on board, a lot of like the stuff like we can get gigs ourselves as well, but a lot of it's like, oh lads, this person's messaged me about the gig. I think, of course it's fine if you don't have a manager, but having a manager is kind of like a stamp of like, oh, these guys, they're in order, they're wanting to be up there and professional, and
Even like in the booking process, if somebody asks you if you fancy a support slot and you say like, oh yeah, if you pass the details on to our manager, it just looks so much more professional
yeah,
straight
it's
away.
one of them things. Yeah.
It's that. I mean, I'm bigging up the manager because I'm one myself. Our band play their fifth gig next week, and they're playing King Tut's. So,
oh, nice.
Nice. I wasn't
massive for them. So obviously, once signing to this record label, you seem to kind of pick up more gigs, like touring, getting yourself out in Newcastle, playing various places, Manchester, London, Leeds. So how was it kind of getting out and about, and what was the kind of reaction in these different kind of cities?
Adam?
Well, we're playing Leeds. It's really good reaction and stuff. And it's the same with like pretty much anywhere else, to be honest. It's like Manchester was good, Birmingham was good, even like London, that was like they were mint, But yeah, it was all good.
We've been quite lucky that Gary is in a successful band because like he's given us such a big opportunity, taking us on a few tour dates, and when the crowd kind of gets to know that we are Gary's band, it seems to just go down well straight away. So I don't deny that we've been like extremely lucky with these opportunities with Gary. But it's mad. It's a mad feeling walking out to Leeds and seeing 600 people just going mental. So something they've never heard before. It's just crazy. I couldn't even see the back of the room. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all it takes is a couple of songs, and like as I say, I hadn't heard these up until maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and as I say, the album sounds amazing. Like I'd be there at a Glasgow show, not a problem. I'd be down the front singing along with the songs. So it only takes a couple of songs to connect with people and get you on your way.
Of course,
we had a good reaction in Glasgow too. Did Owen Moore?
Right?
Nice. Yeah, that was really cool. Nice. And the thing with the album as a whole is what's really nice now is that obviously, people you want everyone to like every song, and people, are like, oh yeah, they're all good songs, but it's nice seeing people have like, oh, this one's my favorite, or I really like this one. Ones that you wouldn't have necessarily expected people to be like, oh, I love that, and that's my favorite. Because obviously none of the tracks on the album are intended to be like filler tracks. They're all like, you're going to put everything into that song, and you want people to think that is the best song on the album at some point. So it's one of them things, and it's like we put a little, what you call it, like a little poll on Instagram the day the album came out, saying, like, what's everyone's favorite song so far? And everyone was responding with different things, and we're like, well, that's great. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it's definitely a body of work. It's a collection of songs that all kind of fit together. Like as we spoke, obviously you had 2 or 3 singles out beforehand, and then obviously Betty came out as the first single from the album. What made you go down the album route? Because a lot of the time now, kind of bands will maybe just release five singles and then put it as an EP and then again another EP. There's not a lot of bands kind of going down the album route these days. So why
Mhm.
did you just go that way?
I think it was a case of, well, it wasn't necessarily our idea. Again, it was Eric who was like, I want you to do an album. And I think when you hear that, you might be thinking, is that, something would do this early in my career? But looking back, it was a really good decision because, like, with a single, as great as singles are, I think when we've released them in the past, it's kind of like, you've got the hype on. I mean, this obviously is different if you're releasing singles like every month, but if you release a single, then you've got a lot of hype around it for a few weeks, and then it just kind of dies down. But with an album, I suppose that's like a huge palette of like songs where people can just constantly listen and pick. And again, with the whole single thing, you might add it to your playlist and you might listen to it for a few weeks, and it might come on every now and then when you're shuffling through. But if you've got, like, in our case, 13 songs on an album, and that's in people's playlists, then we're going to come up all the time. It's that kind of thing where we're just going to be in constant rotation now.
It's a statement as well, though, isn't it? Especially like when we've like got vinyls printed as well. It's like you don't see as many people doing it anymore, so it kind of makes us look like we're. I don't know. It kind of sets you apart a bit. Not many people do it, so it's a bit more eye catching. And if we've been like fortunate enough to have the chance to actually record one, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Obviously then the start of the year, like we're halfway through the year, but you've already had Libertine support, as we talked about. You supported Andrew Cushion and supported Liam Fender, so some big support slots as well. How was it kind of specifically Andrew Cushion, because he's like a local guy? How was it kind of playing alongside him?
It's great. We did like he was gigging in like smaller sort of towns like Scunthorpe, Mexborough, places like that, and he was just doing acoustic shows. And we didn't expect much, but then when we showed up at like Barnsley and the room's just like absolutely packed, it was this cool venue where it was almost like an atrium. So you have like a block of bars on one side, a block of bars on the other, and you've got this big glass ceiling, and there's like little balconies, and you can see all the people like all the way to the back, like hanging off the balconies and that watching. It was just crazy. We just didn't expect it to have such a good reception there. But Andrew's a lovely lad as well. He just made us feel welcome straight away.
He's a great lad, and I think the thing was what impressed us was the fact that, of course it makes sense when you're Andrew's size, but like for a lad from up here to be like selling out a venue like hundreds of miles from his home night after night, like I say, it's a very like basic thing, but when you think about it on a deeper level, something about that is like, wow, that's
especially
very
on his own though as well. Like these weren't full band shows. This is just him with an acoustic guitar, and he's selling hundreds of tickets. So it was pretty impressive. Like,
I mean, I seen him last year. I seen him towards the end of the year on his tour when the album came out. Obviously, that he had the full band for that. So, I'd like to see him as well, kind of more stripped down, because that's kind of how he started out. So,
he's like, obviously with band he's amazing, and then by himself he's amazing. Like he's got a lot of energy for the songs being stripped down. Like in some of his songs, he like proper bash his foot against the floor to kind of imitate like a kick drum.
Yeah, it's almost like Jerry Cinnamon without the pedal.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, I can feel that through the floor. Like he's proper bashing his foot, and it was really cool.
It's class.
So then after all these support shows, you had the next single come out, Keep On Smiling, and then in June, the album came out. So you've mentioned kind of briefly, like on your polls and stuff on social media, how well it's went down, but how well has it went down as a whole? The album, what sort of reaction have you got for other parts of the industry?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we've got like the people working with the label in terms of press. They they've been really good for getting it to loads of like magazines and different things like that. So that's been really nice to see. Obviously the most consumed, sort of thing I would say is obviously Spotify and streaming. It's been doing really well on Spotify. Like we've got 15,000 streams in a week on it, which was really, really nice to see. Just like, I know it's just a number, but it shows, that people are listening and saving, and it's getting on playlists and hitting the algorithm, and I could go on forever about that. But as a whole, yeah, I think it's just a really big like statement of like what we're about. That's the word I would say. Like, it's just a statement, and people are really starting to take us seriously and view it as like a professional outfit, which of course we've always tried to do. But the part that matters is when other people are like, yeah, they're the real deal. So
it's like a portfolio type of thing as well, though. Like it's just gonna kind of sit there, and then when we inquire about like bigger support slots, they've got something to listen to and base us on, rather than like one single from 4 years ago, which is like not really how we sound anymore. They've now got 13 songs of like exactly what we sound like right now. So I guess it's doing good now, but we'll see how good it is for us in a couple of months when it's kind of that. So I'm really
definitely
excited to see what it actually does and what doors it opens for us.
Another point I was going to make was that I think that albums are a lot more like timeless than singles. Like singles, you see them, and obviously it doesn't matter, because if it's a great song, it's a great song. But a single might come out and it might have been out for a few years. It's like, oh, they had that single out a few years ago. But now it's like, it doesn't matter when an album comes out, because it's like, right, that's a piece of work they put out then, and it's a big palette of it. It's like a big box. Like it's a case with like albums from the 90s and the 80s, obviously. Like you listen to them and you think it doesn't matter that it was made that long ago, because it's like a big representation of the band then.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, well, I was away to see Liam Gallagher the other night. Definitely, maybe. So maybe 30 years time we'll be doing an anniversary for their Park album.
Yeah, I was hoping.
Hopefully not just Shay on his own though.
Oh yeah.
So and he's a fresh off the back of a big gig in Newcastle on Saturday for kind of, was that promoting the album then?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was really good fun. It was very stressful. Like, we had a load of sound issues, which was annoying. But in terms of energy and the amount of people we had there, and us trying to give our all through like a very stressful day of like getting the sound, and having to bring on guest members who were really good. Theo and Ethan, they were great, so they helped out a lot. But the energy and the sort of togetherness of that gig was amazing. Like I've never sweat so much at a gig.
Yeah,
I was going for it.
To be in like 35 degrees on that stage was boiling. They put the aircon on the second last song, and I was like, have we been able to do this the whole time?
Yeah.
But yeah, the reaction was insane. Like the amount of people who knew the words to the album when it had only been out for a week was just mind blowing.
Yeah,
like there was a bit like an album, like you would call it an album song because we wouldn't release it as a single. But there's a slower song called 12-inch Record Store. There's a moment where Shay went back from the mic where, and it's what, and people like shouted this lyric to a song that I wouldn't expect people to like have listened to as much. So it was really, really good reception.
That was really nice.
So for people that haven't heard you before, that are listening to the podcast for and just hearing you guys for the first time, how would you kind of describe the album to them for them to go and buy it?
I would say it's kind of like, I mean, guys said it, but it's like, it's our sound right now. It's extremely catchy. They're pop songs, but they're smart, and they've got like wit about them, and they've got a degree of like, there's a lot of musical kind of formality in there, but it retains that catchy, easy listening kind of sense. I think it's a very easy listen. It's like, it's just something you could put on whenever, wherever. And that's a testament to a good album, an album that you could listen to anywhere at any time.
Yeah, I'd also describe it as like a timeline, because with this one, it was never we never thought, right, we're going to sit down and we're going to write an album. Like the songs, one of them's a rework of our first single. One of them's a song that we did like an acoustic duet at a gig once, and we played that, and that one did really well. Like got good reception, and then some of them are written like literally a couple of weeks before recording it. So it's like
Yeah.
4 years of work. We never sat down to write an album. So I
Yeah.
think it's quite a different approach, but I think that really shows, and it sounds good. And I like how, despite it's such a wide time scale, it still sounds so cohesive.
Yeah, definitely.
And as well as that, a wee hidden track cover of Supergrass as well thrown in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
That
that was a
was
good one.
that was Mr. Gary Powell's idea, through and through. It was
Yeah,
great.
the old hidden tracks have kind of became a thing of the past. They used to be kind of a lot more, so it was that was nice to hear something like that again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think going back to even your question before about why we released an album instead of like an EP, I think we have taken quite an old school approach to this release. Like the whole thing of an album and the secret tracks, it's like things that don't happen as often anymore. And I think that's why it's been quite eye-catching.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, Guy, obviously, you mentioned how you maybe it'll be months down the line that you'll see how the album has actually kind of went down. So, what have you got coming up? Obviously, it'll be festival season. It'll be kicking in.
Yeah.
What have you got towards the end of the year?
So we've got a few, like we've got our first couple of major festivals coming up in the next few months. I mean, one especially, Hardwick, we've been asking to play that for years, and then now we've just been asked to play it, and it's just it shows that progression. It feels really good finally being able to like do a major festival. And we're doing Lindisfarne as well, which is class. But yeah, it's just we're trying to show as many people who've never heard us before the music. That's the main idea with this, and we'll see what comes from that.
Brilliant. Well, I'll be keeping my eye out for these now that I'm on board with this. I'll definitely be keeping an eye and looking for another gig up here sometime soon.
Awesome.
But the last bit of the podcast, obviously, it's God Time for Heroes. I asked my guests to pick 4 heroes to come for dinner. Why they're your heroes,
Okay.
and what would you cook them as well, just to see how good a cook these are. So I just batter in with your heroes.
I'm gonna start because I spent a long time thinking about this. It wasn't working in my head because the people who I'd love to speak to might have not really like I'm thinking of if I was genuinely sat at this table with people, I want everyone to get on. So I've picked people who would get on with each other and me. So the first person I've picked is Gary because instantly I've got someone to speak to and get into the conversation. And Gary I think he's a hero of this band. He's great. I've also got Dave Grohl because Nirvana are one of my favorite bands of all time, and then Gary and Dave are both drummers, so they can speak to each other and get on straight away. I've got Ed O'Brien from Radiohead because I would pick Tom York, right? But he's not a very talkative person, and I don't want this dinner to be awkward. So I think Ed O'Brien's the most talkative member of Radiohead, so he'd fit in. And then I've got King Cruel as well, just because I just want to know what goes on in his head because he's such a good songwriter, and I feel like he might provide some comedy to the table as well. But yeah, from this group of people, I have a feeling they're all quite like sushi. I've got a sushi rolling set, so I'd probably try and make some sushi for them or something.
You really
I don't
thought
know how
about
that would
this.
go. Yeah, honestly, I was at the gym this morning, and I remembered that I had to finalize my list, and I actually got really stressed. I needed it to work. I need everyone to get on. So yeah, I really thought about that one.
Looking at those guests, obviously like Ed O'Brien for Radiohead and King Cruel, like it's probably no surprise that they've not really been picked very often on the podcast,
Mhm.
but probably the biggest surprise for me when you mentioned Dave Grohl, I think it's probably the first time he's been
Mhm.
picked, and he's massive.
Really?
But
I just think he's got such an interesting life. Like he's gone from being in the biggest band of the 90s, my favorite band, probably one of my favorite bands of all time, to having to start from scratch and then starting a new band and that band becoming also one of the biggest bands of all time. Like he's done it twice. It's
yeah,
proof that like he is a great musician and it shows like that hard work does actually make it happen. And I just love to speak to him. But yeah, I also used the Gary thing to make it so that the conversation would start flowing. But yeah, um, I thought that was a cool pick.
yeah,
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 definitely.
they're good choices.
Adam, you got it or
I'm still thinking of one.
okay, okay.
One.
Well, I think I would say I would have Dan Burn, who's a Newcastle player, right?
Hmm.
Love him. He's great. He's a Geordie. Bit cliche, but I'd have Sam Fender there, and I'll explain the meal in a second. And then I would have Paul Simon, right? I'll go with my last person in a second, but with Paul Simon, right? Simon and Garfunkel have a song called Punky's Dilemma, right? And that song, he's talking about breakfast in all of it. So what I will probably do is for Dan Byrne, Sam Fender, Paul Simon, and then I'll get to the guest in a second. I'll probably cook like a big breakfast. He talks about Kellogg's cornflakes and he talks about like English muffins, but I'd want to go higher than that. I'd want to just make like a giant fry up, like get Sam Fender with a fry up, Dan Byrne with a fry up. I know he needs to keep fit for football, but would have him on the fry up.
You can have a
Uh,
cheat day. You can have a cheat
yeah, you
day.
can have a cheat day. Paul Simon on the fry up because I'll be like, Paul, you know, you write great songs. I'm going to introduce you to this breakfast. Not that Americans don't know what an English breakfast is, but there you go. And then my fourth person, I'd probably have like Jonah Hill, who's like a really good comedian. I think he's hilarious. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
he provide like the lightheartedness to the table. He'd make everyone laugh. And I feel like
No,
it'd be a great dinner.
that would probably be a crease to be fair.
Yeah, that'll be
Especially
great.
even Dan Burn on his own.
Yeah, Dan Burn on
Just
his
Dan
own would
Burn
be
and Sam Fender. That would be class.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I did think about that. Obviously, he's a pretty young, and when I seen the names here, I thought, I wonder if Shay's named after Shay Given.
That's true. That
Is
is
it?
true. Yeah, that is true. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we had him at Celtic as well. And we let him go early on. He could
Yeah,
have been massive for us, and he could have stayed with us right throughout his career.
yeah. Oh well. He came from Newcastle. There you go.
Have you had time to think, Adam?
I've
This
got
one's going to be good.
so I think the first one would have to be Ryan Gosling. He's amazing. He's be there, so you know what I mean. But the second one would be Darth Vader. Because he's like
Brilliant.
just a sick. He's just the best villain of all time. So he's got to be eating dinner with us. The third one, probably Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth, the actor Chris Hemsworth, or either him as himself or Thor. It could be either one.
Do you want him in character?
Yeah, they got it. They can choose. They can choose. And maybe, oh, I don't really know the last one. I still haven't thought of like the fourth one. But I thought of the meal because I'm going to come back to the fourth one. No, fourth one, George Harrison.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really
That's a
good
good
one.
one.
I'd
Just
love to
'cause
see George Harrison talking to flipping Ryan Gosling. Like that would be. I
Well,
wonder
like
what they talk about.
Darth Vader, to be honest.
Darth Vader with all that heavy breathing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He would make the meal very nice.
yeah, I know.
What would
Wait,
you
At
cook,
least-
Adam?
I think I'd make them like a nice stir fry.
Fair
Mm,
play.
But we
Right.
went quite kind of Oriental in this, obviously, with you with the stir fry and Guy with sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that kind of food is it's just unbeatable. It's just I know Gary loves sushi. That was one of the reasons why I picked sushi because
Yeah, I eat
He
too much
said to
sushi.
us next time he comes up to Newcastle, we're gonna take him to a sushi restaurant after recording, so that should be good.
Yeah,
But
that sounds good.
yeah, Adam, I was laughing because I was just imagining you sat at the table with Darth Vader, and he wouldn't even have to ask you to pass the salt because you can just like
He
Just,
just reach out.
boss, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, Darth Vader, you'll be surprised to know it's the first time he's been picked on the podcast.
I would have been really surprised if he'd been picked before.
But excellent picks, and it's been an excellent chat today. As I say, the album is smashing.
Really appreciate
and
that.
I'll be telling all the listeners go out and stream or buy Bear Park's debut album because it is class. But for coming on the day and speaking to us, it's been grand.
Thank you for having us,
Thank
man.
you so much for having me, mate. We had a blast. It was amazing.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Awesome.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.